Welcome back into another episode of the Foolish Club postgame show. I am Steven Serda, joined as always by my guy, Rocky Magaña. Rocky, it's a Monday night football matchup. Kansas City Chiefs, after a sloppy first half, I think that's putting it kindly. But they handle business in the second half and they cruise to another victory, 28-7 win over the Commanders. Thankfully, Patrick Mahomes kept me alive in my guillotine league because I was really sweating that thing in the first half. But the Chiefs pull it off in the second half. They do everything they have to, and they cruise to an easy win, improving to 5-3 on the season, Rocky.
F and A, Stephen, F and A. The Chiefs came out of halftime with a spur in their ass looking for a pair of tweezers, and they found them. It was a hell of a second half performance by the Kansas City Chiefs. On both sides of the ball, they just dominated. And the first half, you really were a little bit like weary, where you're just like, oh man, is this a repeat of the Jags? Because it felt like when I saw Jack Cochran get a holding penalty on special teams, I was like, oh no, here we go again. We're gonna play down to this team. We're gonna F around and find out and just play with our food and be the better team and lose the game. But to their credit, Chiefs went in at halftime, got themselves straightened out and came out and just dominated in the second half.
And it was another very impressive game for the offense overall. The first half was just weird, Rocky. So we could just get into it. I mean, this Chiefs team, after the rocky start to the season, they're now 5-3. They look like a totally different football team than they did over the first 4 weeks of the season right now. And this is still like we probably still haven't even seen the best version of this team just yet. Is they're getting Rice back and healthy, and he looks dominant, has an awesome game tonight, and still probably isn't even. I haven't seen the snap count, so still probably isn't even necessarily playing every single snap and running every single route. We know Josh Simmons is still not with the team, though he's according to Nate Taylor, the Chiefs are hopeful he'll be back within a few weeks. So hopefully we see him again soon. And then they don't have Trey Smith tonight. And I think some of that stuff along the offensive line is what led to some of these first half struggles. The Washington Commanders, who do not have an overwhelming pass rush by any means, and they've lost multiple guys on that side of the ball. They were giving the Chiefs offensive line a lot of problems in the first half of this one, and some of it's sloppy play, like Travis Kelsey not hanging on to a football, and it leads to another interception. But overall, like, I don't want to nitpick the first half in this one, but it didn't feel unlike the Jags game where it was a lot of just mistakes and then the offensive line struggling a little bit and Mahomes taking some hits. And then in the second half, they figured everything out. Everything settled down. The defense settled down. And the Chiefs just absolutely controlled every aspect of the game through quarters 3 and 4 in this one. And we cruised to another easy win for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, you got a glimpse tonight of what would have happened if the Chiefs didn't pay Trey Smith, and I think we can all agree that we're glad the Chiefs paid Trey Smith. Because Mike Caliendo, God bless his heart, he just isn't up to the challenge of being a starting offensive lineman in this league. He's fine for it to as a patch like tonight, but he was definitely the weak link along the line. You also notice Josh Simmons not being in there today. Jalen Moore has been awesome in Simmons' absence, and he's been a warrior. He's been out there battling, filling in nicely, but he did have a very rough first half. I thought you definitely saw the absences along the Chiefs offensive line today, and you definitely saw, I think it did lead to some of the disjointed feeling and the uneven feeling of the Chiefs offense in the first half, right? You saw Patrick Mahomes, his process was sped up quite a bit in the first half. He was rushing some throws. He was getting hit as he threw. He was scrambling more than he really had to. Then in the second half, you saw him hold the ball for like 6 seconds. The projection got much better in the second half. And so, all in all, I think that you know the offensive line being thin. I think that's one thing we got to be concerned about is there's not a lot of depth along the offensive line beyond Jalen Moore, right? And so
Yeah.
if there is any sort of like extended absence from Trey Smith, I mean, you hope that Josh Simmons gets back so that you can plug Jalen Moore in there guard maybe because you don't feel great about Mike Caliendo over like a multi-game stretch.
And sweet dreams to our friend Corey, who says he's got to go to sleep, but we'll listen tomorrow. We appreciate the support. It's why we do this. Me and Rocky grind. I know Rocky's tired, hasn't gotten a lot of sleep this weekend, but we are grinding nonetheless to discuss this Kansas City Chiefs team. So thank you guys for all the support that you've shown us so far this season. But yeah, I think that's what this was all about. And coming into this game, I talked all last week about I just think this should be an easy win for the Kansas City Chiefs. Like the Commanders really, especially without Jaden Daniels, aren't really a problem. And they have Terry McLaurin back and Debo Samuel back in this game. And Terry came up with a couple of amazing plays and then winds up leaving this game again after re-aggravating that quad injury that has caused him to miss time. So that's a huge bummer for Terry McLaurin because he had just an absolutely absurd catch with Trent McDuffie like all over him tonight. And then that initial touchdown catch that tied the game up was just a sick grab by Terry. And I do like the officiating in this one. Like I don't like complaining about officials, but it did not feel like those were qualified NFL referees in tonight's game. Like just a lot of like, how do you not call that a touchdown? Like, why is that? Why do we have to review these things? Like, isn't it your job to know those things? And like, just a lot of dumb stuff like that. But like overall, I totally agree with you. Like, I do think that I underestimated the absence of Trey Smith, and that's not to say that I discount how good Trey Smith is for the Chiefs' offensive line. I think that I underestimated the way that the Commanders could capitalize on the absence of Trey Smith, and that's really where a lot of the pressure was coming from. Was Mike Caliendo's side and them attacking him and trying to get after Mahomes. Mahomes took a lot of hits tonight, and so you don't love to see that. Hopefully, it's not a long-term thing with Trey Smith. Like they seemed overly optimistic about him leading into the game, even though he didn't practice at all last week. So you would love to have him back ahead of this contest against the Buffalo Bills in week number 9. But yeah, I mean, it makes a huge difference when you still have Jalen Moore at left tackle and this offensive line, despite the fact that it struggled a little bit tonight, Mahomes still had enough time where he was making plays, and it wasn't anything like the catastrophic protection that we saw last season. So you can live and die with what you saw tonight. But you come against some better pass rushes, and maybe that's a little cause for concern. But overall, it just kind of felt like the first half of this one was weird, Rocky. Like it was another situation where the Commanders are driving on the opening drive of the game, and they're being annoying too. Like the Chiefs are, getting pressure, but Marcus Mariota's using his legs and escaping sacks and finding guys, and it's like get out of here, Marcus Mariota. Like we've lived through this enough. Why do you just play this well when you're playing the Kansas City Chiefs? Um, but then it ends in a Mike Dana interception because Debo Samuel can't hang on to the football, and then it was just kind of weird stuff. And then Washington decided, hey, we're going for it on fourth down. And so, like, we don't even see a punt in this game until the second half. And it's not because of a bunch of scoring. It's just because the Commanders refused to punt. The Chiefs kept turning it over. So we had in halftime tied 7-7, and we don't see a single punt. And it's not like this was some high flying offensive performance from both teams. It was just like an annoying first half where Chiefs were making mistakes. They were struggling a little bit on the defensive side of the ball, despite the fact that they were getting some pressure on Marcus Mariota. They just didn't seem like they could bring him down half the time. And then Mariota was able to utilize his legs and capitalize on some things, and also like burn the Chiefs a couple of times with their running back screens were like a huge problem in the first half. Like Cliff was really dialing those things up, and it was on more than one occasion he hits a tight end who's wide open in the flat, or the Chiefs just aren't ready for the running back screen because Spags is sending a blitz or something, and they got burned like that multiple times in the first half. But they totally settled everything down in the second half, and it was just a straight up dominant performance on both sides of the ball.
Well, yeah, and so I think the big thing also, especially on offense in the second half, is that like the Chiefs are good enough. Like Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs receiving core is good enough that if they want to play one-dimensional football and just sling the ball all over the yard or just do like a short passing game attack and just completely ignore the running game, anything outside of like 3rd and 1 to Kareem Hunt, that they can move the ball and do that. But when they came out in the second half, they said, okay, you know what we're going to do? They're teeing off on Patrick Mahomes right now. Do how we're going to give Patrick Mahomes a little bit more time in the pocket? We're just going to run the ball a couple times. And you saw them gash Washington's defense for a couple decent sized runs. And once that started happening, it started opening up the passing game, as well. And the Chiefs got creative with their running game. Love the Wildcat Rashi Rice run that was almost a touchdown in the red zone. But just in general, like as soon as they started balancing out the offense with a little bit more run and pass, and like the Chiefs are never going to be a running team, but like if you just do like a 30-70 split, like it makes the passing game so much more difficult because defenses just can't tee off against it. And then also the difference this year, I think, to like last year also is that Andy Reid has kind of realized where the league is going, and he said, "Okay, on 4th down and short, we're gonna lean into the numbers. We're just gonna go for it. Like we got Patrick Mahomes, we got Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt, it's not gonna get you a lot, but he'll eat turf 2.5 yards at a time. He's gonna take one big bite and then go down. And if you're within that one big bite, he's gonna get that bite every damn time." Right. And
Yeah.
so he's great short yardage running back. He's got great vision. He has enough power to, pick up the hard yards. And so, Andy Reid's being more aggressive this year than he's ever been before on 4th down. And then you mix in a little bit of running. And there's like, unless the Chiefs are beating themselves when they're mixing running and passing together and having a well-balanced offense, there's not another team that can hang with them offensively right now, I don't think. And then if the defense is playing like they are tonight, like good night, and that's why you see like last year the Chiefs won what, it was like 11 one-score games, set an NFL record, blah 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 blah. Like it seems like now that they've finally pulled their head out of their tuchus and they've stopped shooting themselves in the foot repeatedly, or like they were doing earlier in the season. They're like, we're not going to mess around with these one-score games anymore. We're going to put our foot on these other teams' throats, put them out of their misery, and win by 3 touchdowns because it's a lot easier when you're just running the ball for the last 7 minutes of the 4th quarter
Yeah.
because you're up by 3 touchdowns, And so, I mean, like that's the difference that I'm seeing this year is that the Chiefs are blowing teams out, which they never did before.
Yeah, and I think that that's a difference compared to the last 2 seasons too now, is that they have so much offensive firepower. They can have 2 terrible interceptions in the first half, go into halftime, tied 7-7, and then still come out and just go touchdown, 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 and totally take control of it. And the defense is still good enough and talented enough that then they can give you enough problems on that side of the ball that nothing's easy. And the Chiefs secondary is still playing great. Their linebackers are playing great. Nick Bolton looked like he was banged up in this game, but he never left. So that's something maybe to keep an eye on as practice gets underway, like on Wednesday. Just make sure that he's out there as they get ready for a trip to Buffalo. But as far as the offense goes, we did see Isaiah Pacheco leave late in this one. Took what looked like a tough hit to his right knee, and it didn't like necessarily get bent in a way where you're like, oh, that might be a season-ending injury, but it still looked like a rough hit on that knee from a Washington defender. And he was immediately like obviously like upset and frustrated and knew he was hurt right away and kind of limped off. So that's something to definitely keep an eye on. As Kareem Hunt was great tonight, finds the end zone twice. Brashard Smith not involved in the passing game tonight, but get some rushing attempts and got some rushing attempts early in this one too. So like they were obviously trying to work him in a little bit more. Like I think that's been one of the bigger things too, Rocky, and we talked about it in recent weeks. Like the run game doesn't need to be what the Colts have in Jonathan Taylor. Like that's not who they want to be anyways. And they're never going to be that with Patrick Mahomes. But what they do need them to do is like at least be effective enough that teams have to respect it. And they have done that for a month plus now. Like they had been an effective run game. And tonight we saw it kind of go from a straight, two running back with Brashard in, but Brashard basically only being utilized as a receiver to now, okay, they have three running backs that they're legitimately trying to hand the ball off to. And so while it's not the greatest thing for like fantasy football purposes, it's been super effective for the Chiefs offense. So Isaiah Pacheco's gotten a lot better as the season has moved forward. So I think if he is hurt for a while or significantly hurt in any way, that's something to keep an eye on. Maybe Brashard Smith's role expands from here. Due to that, Kareem Hunt was also banged up coming into this one, but he winds up practicing fully on Saturday and winds up playing in this one. So that's something to keep an eye on. But also, Rocky, like the whole everybody's got to eat thing that every Chiefs fan is saying now, every player is saying, and then Jesse Newell had a good article on the Athletic about the AGF is one of their other mottos this season, and that has to do with the going forward on fourth down and being aggressive this season. Like that is a far removed from what we've seen from Andy Reid in the past. Like a lot of it has to do with personnel and how talented this team is on offense. What we're seeing the Chiefs do with Rashee Rice in the end zone is some of the more interesting stuff I've seen from Andy Reid in a long time, because Andy Rocky doesn't usually have these big bodied wide receivers who can just toss guys off of them and keep moving. And we have seen it now in 2 straight weeks. Like when they get to the red zone, Rashee Rice has packages that are built just for him. And he could be a devastating red zone weapon. Like he finishes his first game against the Raiders with 2 touchdowns, could have easily had three. Finishes tonight with that long touchdown to put them up 28-27, winds up having another awesome game, 8 catches, 90 yards in that score. But he easily could have had 3 touchdowns because earlier in the game, 2 of the other touchdowns were touchdowns that were designed to Rashee Rice, and he gets tackled at the 1 yard line. Like that stuff is something that the Chiefs have been missing for years now. Like forever, we talked about Andy Reid's creativity in the red zone, and it's been since like 2022 that I think we could really say that about them, because the last 2 years they've really struggled when they get deep inside the red zone and really struggled to put up 7 points. And what they're doing with Rashee Rice right now is fantastic. And I love it. And I hope we keep seeing more of that. But it's just going to make things better for everybody else, because then when they keep playing off of those looks, like people are going to be like, oh, it's going to Rice. It's going to Rice. Watch Rice. And then you free up Worthy, you free up Kelsey, you free up Hollywood or Thornton or whatever. Like what the Chiefs are doing on offense, even in a frustrating first half of football tonight, but still a fun 28-7 win, is fantastic right now. And it's the best they have looked in years. And I know we keep saying that, but it's not just that that they're fun again right now. It's that outside of the Indianapolis Colts, I think they are clearly the best offensive team in the NFL right now.
I would say including the Indianapolis Colts. Let's face it, the Chiefs have played a much tougher schedule than the Colts have. And if Travis Kelsey doesn't have that one pop-up interception against the Eagles and they don't completely crap the bed against the Jags, this team is sitting at 7-1 as well, right? Like this could very easily be a 7-1 team right now. And I'm at the point where I'm like, there's not a better offense in the NFL than the Kansas City Chiefs right now. And I think anybody who tells you otherwise is kidding themselves. I don't care what Jonathan Taylor's doing. I'm never going to sit here and say that a Daniel Jones led offense is the best offense of the NFL. Like I know he's playing well, but give it another month of teams getting tape on him in the second half of the season. And I think that the Colts have at least a handful of losses coming down the pipe for them.
Jones has been fantastic, but let's be clear here. Like everybody who knows football is like, God damn it. Patrick Mahomes is going to win another MVP, isn't he?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
that's what's happening right now across the league. A lot of people aren't like, oh, Daniel Jones coming out of nowhere to win an MVP. Everybody's like, shit, Patrick Mahomes is just going to go get another MVP right
yeah.
now.
He's just gonna go out and get one. And look, hey, listen, you know who's loving the Rushy Rice packages is Travis Kelsey, right? Because how many times was Travis Kelsey just an afterthought to the Washington defense today to the tune of 99 yards and a touchdown, right? Like there were so many times where Kelsey was just a forgotten man and he just kind of slipped out behind the defense and then had big gains, right? And to Kelsey's credit, right? Like he had another stupid interception that he caused today where took he tried to turn up field before he secured the ball, went off his hands. Bobby Wagner got the interception. But Kelsey went back to the sideline and like the pro he is, like the Hall of Famer he is, he was like, all right, that's it. Time to lock it up and show the world who I am. And that's the difference between that's always been the difference between him and Zach Ertz, right? You can say, Zach Ertz was the one tight end drafted before him in the same year. Zach Ertz is a great tight end, but I think when in the biggest moments of the game tonight, you saw Zach Ertz come up short on the first down. You saw Zach Ertz drop an easy slant, right, on a crucial was that third down. And so I think that Travis Kelsey, like he's not the same guy that he was, but he's still got it. And all these other all this other firepower, these other kids around him is doing nothing but making his life easier, right? And he's just eating and he's loving it. I will say this: Bobby Wagner is still one hell of a linebacker at his age. Like that guy is one of the greatest players to ever play football. He's amazing, and so is Terry McLaurin. I'm a Chiefs fan, but I have no idea how Terry McLaurin made that catch over Trent McDuffie in the
Yeah,
second half and stayed in bounds. Like he's a
it was yeah.
phenomenal player.
Terry's
I was
Terry's a
like,
baller
damn,
when he's
he's
healthy.
a
Is
baller.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's been a real bummer that he's been banged up this season. And Marcus Lattimore, who was having kind of a down year, like that first interception he got off Mahomes was sick. Like the Commanders still have some players, and so I know that they're banged up right now. They don't have their starting quarterback, but you know the Chiefs sleptwalked through this one, as our friend Ron Hughley mentions, and they sleptwalked through the first half, and then in the second half, it was just like, all right, let's buckle down, stop making mistakes, and let's just go out there and score. And they did it easily, and it was with all of the top guys doing exactly what you need them to do. It's Kelsey 99 yards, Rice 90 yards, uh, Worthy pitching in with 5 for 53, but early in the game, he has a beautiful like 27-yard grab down the sideline, and then just chipping in here and there. Like this overall is like what the offense should look like, and then you get occasionally you're going to get the Juju mix in where Juju had a couple of nice catches tonight, and then maybe you get a deep ball to Thornton, and then Hollywood's going to be in the mix here, and we're just seeing now on a weekly basis like all of this Chiefs depth on the offensive side of the ball is just so good, and as long as that offensive line holds up, like this team can really, really go on a run here. And they're going against a Buffalo Bills team at Buffalo in week 9. So we'll have plenty of coverage on that game here on Foolish Club Media this week. Obviously, it's a massive one. The Bills did just lose their star defensive tackle, Ed Oliver, for a significant amount of time due to a torn bicep, and their defense was already struggling. So, like, this game's got a real chance to be a fun one in week 9. So you want to make sure you stay locked in right here as we preview everything about that. But before we get out of here, I do want to talk about the defense a little bit more, Rocky. And yes, Terry had some nice grabs tonight. They were the Commanders' offense was frustrating in the first half of this one, and I think in large part it was the same thing that we've really seen from this defense so far this season is that when they go up against quarterbacks with any kind of mobility, they can be real frustrating for the Kansas City Chiefs. Because Nick Bolton was great tonight, like coming up and making plays. Like the Commanders could not run the football at all, and so everything was Marcus Mariota using his legs as far as the ground game goes. And then a lot of those design screens were finding success in the first half of this one. Um, but the secondary was holding up, and then the linebackers I thought played really well tonight, and George had a good game. Laramie Tunsil also leaves this game for the Washington Commanders, comes back, then leaves again with a hamstring injury. But George had a really nice game tonight. I thought George was really bringing a lot of pressure on Mariota, especially early in the game. But I do think that the mobility of quarterbacks that this defense goes up against continues to be a little bit of a red flag. And this is with Josh Allen coming up in week 9, like one of the most frustrating mobile quarterbacks because he can just run through you and keep going. And it's not just that he's explosive, it's that he's really, really hard to tackle on top of it and then can just rope 50-yard bombs down the field. But it continues to be an issue for this defense, and it's always been a little bit of an issue for the Chiefs defense, but it seems like this season more than most, it's been one of the frustrating things that they can't totally seem to figure out, and teams keep finding ways to exploit that against that.
Yeah, I think the issue is that, I mean, yes, and it is really frustrating when that guy who's doing is Marcus Mariota, who still has some legs, but his arm is completely dead. Right, like that touchdown to Terry McLaurin was the biggest lollipop you've ever seen in your entire life. Like he has like Drew Brees, Ben Roethlisberger, late career level, Peyton Manning's last season level arm strength at this point. Like his arm is completely shot. And so, but the issue is, I think the reason why they struggle with these mobile quarterbacks is that if you think about it, they're not overly athletic and fast on the defensive line, right? Like that's just Spags' style. Like Spags wants big, strong edge rushers, right? Like he wants guys who are 6'3", 6'4", 250 to 260 pounds plus, and then he wants big guys in the middle. And then with that, aside from Drew Tranquil, like Leo Chanel's awesome because he's super strong and does have some speed, but he's not like flying around the field, right? Like kind of like Willie Gay's was definitely much more like speed kind of linebacker, right? And Nick Bolton is super, he's super intelligent, high football IQ, but he is he's a minus from an athletic profile, right? Like he's not an overwhelming athlete by any means either. And so you have these guys who are plus athletes at the quarterback position, these guys who are not overly athletic along the line, and it's kind of a little bit of a recipe for some issues until the second, and that's the secondary comes up and plays containment on the outside, which we saw a little bit, or the quarterback gets to the second level. I will say this: the benefit that the Chiefs have of like a guy like Mariota or Lamar Jackson, those guys seem to give the Chiefs a little bit more trouble, I would say, running the football than maybe a guy like Josh Allen, who is much more between the tackles scrambler. Like 90% of his rushing success is up the middle. Like he doesn't really run outside the pocket with much success, right? Because he's much more of a power runner than like a guy who's going to scamper outside. And so he's not going to run away from George Karlaftis once he gets outside the pocket, like you see guys like Mariota do. So I'll say that Josh Allen is a world-class athlete, world-class football player, probably the second best quarterback in the NFL, I would say, next to Mahomes. But from a mobility standpoint, I think that the Chiefs match up better against Josh Allen. And it was interesting in this game, though, just kind of going back to it a little bit, is first of all, we have to shout out Mike Dana because this was the Mike Dana football game with an interception and a sack, right? Like hats off Mike Dana, hell of a game, young man. But then also like early in the game, like you would see guys make really big plays, one play in the first half, especially on defense, and then they'd kind of like a busted play a little bit. Like there's one play in particular with Nick Bolton where he just took like a horrible line to the edge and then ended up whiffing on the tackle, and it was a big play for Washington in the first half. And I feel like you kind of saw a little bit of that in the first half, and then in the second half they just came out on both sides of the ball, and especially on defense, they were just locked down. You saw, like, even with Mariota at quarterback, this is a much better offense than they played against the Raiders last week. But they made Washington's offense look like the Las Vegas Raiders in the second half. Like they just completely shut them down, and there was nothing going on offense for Washington coming out of the half.
And as of tomorrow morning, we're 7 days away from the NFL trade deadline, which has been quiet, which I guess is typically the case every year. Everybody hypes up the NFL trade deadline like it's going to be trade here, trade here, trade here, guys moving all over the league. And it seems like it's always a letdown. But the Chiefs need some defensive line help. Like, I think we all know that, especially with Omar Norman Lott going down and being lost for the season. Like, I know he wasn't a full-time player, but he was an important depth piece who had shown some flashes here in his rookie season for the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, they need more depth along that defensive line. I know Charles Omenihu has played better the last couple of games. I think the offensive line matchups have also played into those performances. And as far as the defense goes, like it's still Chris Jones and it's Amenahu, Karlaftis, and Dan that can flash here and there, but they're very like matchup dependent players and they need more run stuffers. They need more guys who can do things like that because their run defense has been great this season, despite the numbers being skewed a little bit. And a lot of that has to do with the rushing quarterbacks, not because the Chiefs have been bad at slowing down running backs this season. But they just need a little bit more along the defensive line because, like Rocky, it feels like this secondary is really figuring it out. Like it feels like they got something with this group of guys now. And, I know we get frustrated with Chamari Connor, but like his role has finally expanded to where he's like playing more of a safety role instead of playing cornerback. And Noel Williams is in the mix more to the point where they feel so confident giving Noel Williams an expanded role that Christian Fulton still has been a healthy scratch. And I still think that he could wind up playing into a bigger role down the season. Like Spags even talked about it this week. It's exactly what I said last week. Like, I think the dude's just missed a lot of time and probably doesn't know the defense as well as he should have. Probably hasn't gotten enough reps in game because of all of the injuries. And it just seems like they're bringing him along slow because Noel Williams has turned into such an impressive player for them as a rookie. And then McDuffie's still been great. And then Chamari Connor has just been so much better in that safety role. And Brian Cook is having the best season of his career, like easily this year. And then Jaden Hicks still, even though maybe he's not playing as big of a role as we thought he was going to, he's still like when he does show up, he like shows up and makes some plays here and there. And then Jalen Watson has been a little up and down this season, but he seems like he's settling into things a little bit now as they really have hit a groove with that group. And it's like if they can just figure out the defensive line a little bit here, just get a little bit more out of that group, then it feels like the defense is ready to just fully assert themselves as like one of the better units in the NFL, along with the fact that now they have an offense that can flip the switch and take off whenever they want.
Yeah, if we could just hear Ashton Gelati or Jerry Tillery's name called at least once or twice a game, that would be helpful. But like they're just giving us absolutely nothing. They gave us nothing tonight, right? Like there was like they played snaps, but you didn't hear their name called once. You didn't really see them do much um, on the field. It is awesome that Noah Williams has worked out how as well as he has because it has allowed Chamari Connor to stay back in that safety role. And they really have found something in that safety room, right? With Chris Rowland Wallace even playing in a little bit in the mix there this season. The Chiefs were on to something with Brian Cook, like when the second that he was on, like he led off like 3 straight episodes with the franchise. We should have been like, okay, well, that's the guy they see as like their safety guy, right? Because they're putting him front and center in front of all of us on the franchise on a weekly basis. They're saying, okay, this is going to be one of the faces of the defense.
And I thought it was going to be Jaden Hicks easily.
So did
like,
I.
Just based on,
Yeah.
we had seen 3 full years of Brian Cook, and I was like, eh. And he's been tremendous. He's been
Awesome.
a key component of the Chiefs defense this season.
Yeah, he's been amazing. He's been amazing. The whole secondary has been much like better than they were last year. Having that one extra perimeter defender that keeps Joshua Williams mostly on the sideline. Jalen Watson, my God, Jalen Watson is playing he's having like a Pro Bowl season this year. He's playing amazing defense on the perimeter, and so the Chiefs are gonna have a decision to make about him coming up.
I think was that late pick? Was that Joshua Williams picked that off?
Yeah, that was Joshua Williams who picked it off, but Chris Jones was like 30 yards offsides on the play.
Oh, okay.
And so
Okay, so Jack Cochran got an interception. Is that
oh
right?
yeah. Did he? I was sitting here getting ready. It was like 2-minute warning. I said, okay, I think the game's over. And
I
so I
saw
came.
somebody, yeah, I guess it was Jack Cochran. Okay. Well, so I think maybe you're right. Maybe there was a penalty and then Marcus Mariota threw another pick. I don't know. I think I was doing the same thing. I was like getting ready to go live, so I wasn't locked in at the very end.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
would be nice. I mean, there'd already been some reports ahead of the trade deadline, like I don't think the Chiefs are going to move Christian Fulton. But Joshua Williams could be a player. Maybe he can flip for something. I mean, he's a guy that's played extended snaps in the NFL and has shown some ability despite the fact the Chiefs just refuse to play him now. So, I mean, that could be a piece that they might be interested in moving if they can get anything for him.
I mean, listen, if you're a team like the Jets or another team that has pass rushers and you're not doing anything this year, then you might as well flip a young guy like a Jermaine Johnson for a pick. And if you're the Chiefs, you're not going to get a guy who's that quality for a second or third rounder, probably, right? Because he's a first round quality player that the team just not a good fit right now for where the team's at. And they're probably better off stockpiling picks for their future. And so, I mean, honest to God, if you're trading picks, I mean, as long as you're not moving your one, at this point, the Chiefs roster is pretty solid, right? Like, I mean, especially if we're talking like 2026 picks, if it's going to make the defense better for a run this year, and it's a guy who's not just going to be like a 1-year rental who you could possibly extend or sign. I mean, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Invest in this team. Um, I've been hard begging the drum hard for a running back as well. At this point, not quite as much as I thought that we were going to need it. Right? If Josh Simmons is able to come back and play, we have Jalen Moore backing up the right tackle. I'm still on the extend Jalen Moore train. Have him play right tackle next year and for the future, and then draft a pass rusher next year. But if you're going to end up, but if there's a pass rusher available at the trade deadline who you can have locked up for a couple of seasons, you might as well flip a pick and just do it now instead of next year, right? And so the Chiefs definitely need defensive line help. They need interior defensive line help as well. Who's available? I don't know. I have to get on Twitter and see what Ricky Scoops is saying. Right? if Ricky Scoops says it,
Yeah,
it's true.
it's I don't know if there's any Melvin Ingram type of guys just sitting on the couch right now that they could call up to be a situational guy. But I do think you're right. It's like I would like to see the Chiefs try to find a little bit more help along the interior of the defensive line, and I think it's going to make things a lot easier. Because I think the defense is good enough to get you where you want to go, but you can see just some minor red flags that like could be problems for them down the line, especially when they play some of the better teams. And I think Buffalo is still really good. I think they're a little overrated based off of their schedule and their performance so far this season. So I'm really interested to see if that stays true next week when the Chiefs head to Buffalo. But we know traditionally in these matchups too, it always feels like the Chiefs hold these things back a little bit because they know Buffalo is a team they can see in January, and then they really get their best shot when they see them in the postseason. And Buffalo seemingly treats these games like it's their Super Bowl every time they play. So we'll see what happens in Week 9 for the Kansas City Chiefs. But I want to keep seeing them get tested in different ways because that helps us learn a little bit more about the team. But even so, the biggest difference maker right now is that their offense looks unstoppable again, and that's really all that matters.
Yep, 100%. And the difference between Buffalo games and regular season usually is that the Chiefs are usually in the driver's seat of the 1 seed right now at this point. And right now they're still playing catch up on Denver in the AFC West, let alone the 1 seed, right, with the Colts. And so the Chiefs can't really afford to hold back right now at this point. But you are right. Even when the Chiefs were sitting there at 0-2, they were still everybody's Super Bowl. I think you saw it tonight
Yeah,
with the Commanders. Like the Chiefs were definitely the Commanders' Super Bowl today. Like Dan Quinn said, we're going to be aggressive. We're going to live on the edge. We know we're playing a good team across the way. Essentially, we're not kicking field goals and we're not punting. And maybe to his detriment, maybe he should have trusted Matthew Wright a little bit more like Andy Reid did last year when Matthew Wright came
yeah,
through for us. Because I think Matthew Wright's actually a pretty good kicker. But he said, no, we're not basically F them field goals. We're
yeah.
going for tutties today. And it backfired on him. Um, my boy Brian in the comments section over here, though, saying Colin Saunders, he is out there.
Yeah, he's
Um,
been healthy and active, I think, for Jacksonville for the last several weeks. So
yeah, so
I'm wouldn't be against it. I know he had kind of an up and down time in New Orleans, but prior to him leaving in free agency and signing in New Orleans, he was playing some of the best football of his career here in Kansas City. So that was a
well,
few
who
years
doesn't
ago.
struggle in New Orleans, right? Like who
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
leave in their
yeah,
struggle in New
to
Orleans?
his credit. But, after, week 9, the Chiefs head into a bye week, so they'll have some time to reassess some things and figure some things out, and then coming out of the bye, they do take on the Denver Broncos, who might be without, Patrick Surtain when that matchup comes up on the calendar, as he's dealing with a serious shoulder injury and is, apparently a candidate for IR if they decide he needs that much time to get back. So, um, it's going to be an interesting next few weeks for the Kansas City Chiefs, but I think a lot of teams in the NFL are definitely seeing that the Chiefs are not gone. They're certainly back, and they're definitely a team to be feared here moving forward. So,
If if we could win the next 3 games, we could very easily run the table the rest of the season.
yeah. And yeah, it is shaping up for the Chiefs to, as long as they step up and play the way that we know they are capable of, it should be a very fun rest of the 2025 regular season. But stay locked in here to Foolish Club Media. We'll have everything you need to know about this matchup against the Buffalo Bills in week 9 all week long. Foolish Fantasy with Kramer coming your way tomorrow. Beach season on Wednesday. Brian's World showing BK later in the week. Got everything you need to know. It's Halloween week too, so everybody have fun. Go to a Halloween party or something. And we're gonna get ready for a fun week 9 matchup against the Buffalo Bills. So for Rocky Magaña, I'm Steven Serda. We'll talk to you guys soon.